Hi, everyone. I am very excited to be here today talking to Cassie. So, Cassie and I connected on Instagram together, and Cassie's actually finished treatment, I think, really recently, just last month. So, I think you might be the chat that's the closest to finishing treatment. So I think it will be really interesting today to talk about everything with you, Cassie. It's very fresh for you. But if I start all these chats with just talking a bit about diagnosis and when that happened and kind of what that looked like for you. So welcome to the OWise chats.
Thank you so much for having me, Carly. Such a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate your time. But yeah, so I've only recently finished. I think it was May the 5th. It feels like a bit of a blur now, but my last radiation was May the 5th. And I got diagnosed in August 2023, 7th of August. I'd had a change of shape in my boobs. I didn't feel any lumps. I had a reconstruction surgery in 2015 after I had my daughter. And my boobs were really symmetric. So they always looked the same. I paid for them to look the same. It was just an uplift. It wasn't any implant or anything. So I was a regular checker. And one day, March last year, I just noticed that as I raised my arms, this boob was much higher than the other. And I thought that's a bit strange. I had lost quite a lot of weight. I'd been on a bit of a health kick. And I thought it was just down to that, left it. And then I went on holiday in July last year and I really noticed that there was a significant change in shape. So I came back. July the 18th, it all started. August the 7th, I got diagnosed with HER2 positive breast cancer and I had 2 tumours. One was laying really close to the breast wall of the back of my chest and one was right behind my 2.5 centimetres and 11 millimetres. So
And you couldn't feel either of those by hand?
Couldn't feel the smallest one at all. The second one, once I realised, I had to literally bend over and tuck my hand behind my breast to even feel it. When I did, like a golf ball, but it was 2.5 centimetres long. I think the thing for me was just really realising that it's not always a lump. You know, my
It's so important, yeah.
breast was completely, although it was still round, it was almost like the cancer was drawing it back, so it was right on my chest. So that was,
and that is, we do share that, don't we? I mean, anyone that kind of shares publicly and talks about signs and symptoms of breast cancer, that is one of the most important messages for people to spread far and wide. Is it is not always a lump. Mine wasn't. I couldn't feel a lump. Mine was a swelling under my armpit. So yeah, changes to shape, any kind of skin rashes, any bleeding from the nipple, like things like that, all of it, discharge and things from the nipple, get it checked, right?
absolutely. And I took pictures, and obviously we met through my page, all the breasts that I decided to talk about my story through. And I'm at that point now where I really want to share it with the community, but it does feel so personal. So I'm just going to explore what that feels like in the future and see whether it's something that I do eventually have the courage to share, because I think it's so important. It wasn't a lump. There was no lump in my mind. It was a difference in shape. And people will just put that down to lots of other things. And as we know, early detection is key. I think
Did you know that a change in shape could be potential breast cancer?
I don't think it was one of the top 3. Yes. I knew about the rashing and I obviously knew about the lumps. And for me, it was more around the nipple. That's where I felt that if there was going to be anything, it would come from there. How
Yeah.
am I?
Yeah.
So anyway, we had chemotherapy, 8 rounds of chemotherapy. I had the Red Devil and I had 4 rounds of paclitaxel. I cold capped the whole way through, which obviously we've spoken about. I feel so passionate about. And although
I mean, I just would love to talk to you about that. We'll talk about that in a bit, but obviously we're in June now. You finished all your treatment last month and your hair does look amazing. So it's always really great, I think, to hear kind of successful cold capping stories as well. So I'd love to ask you more about that in a bit. So
of course. I then went on to have a mastectomy and reconstruction at the same time. And then I had a week of radiotherapy, quite intense radiotherapy They wanted to, it was all preventative, apparently. That's what they said, but it was quite intense. Yeah, and that finished in May. And I think, in all honesty, when you come out of treatment, I think the hardest part is now navigating life, you know? And that's
I was going to ask you how you're feeling.
I don't really know, Carly, how to describe it. I have really amazing days where I'm so grateful for life, and then I have this little thing that sits on my shoulder and it ticks away at you. And I'm having counselling. I'm very open about that. I'm doing everything I can to make life better for myself and to help me heal from this. But I said to her yesterday, I almost feel like it's a false happiness that I'm living. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm alive. Thank God I'm alive. But I'm so scared. I'm so scared, you know? So there's a lot of moving parts at the moment. I'm not going to get emotional, but there's a lot of moving parts.
It's okay if you do. I
Yeah,
think
it's
these months after all treatment finishes, I always describe it as you're boarding this train and it's moving so fast when you get your diagnosis. And once it's finished, your treatment and stuff, and you get to step off, I mean, it just hits you, doesn't it? It's like a really like, oh my goodness, you got diagnosed. This all started, you said, last July. We're now in June. That's 11 months of your life that has been intensely focused on getting you better from breast cancer.
yes.
And now it's like you're picking up those pieces. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm so pleased you're having therapy. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I've always believed in it. The one thing has come out so bright is I've never loved myself more. I've always had a bit of a turbulent relationship with myself over the years, and childhood stuff, and it all happens to us. We all have, our journeys and our stories. But I'm in love with myself. I'm so proud of what I've been able to achieve. And I could never have said that in 46 years, Carly, never. And I look at myself now and I think, yeah, I really like what I see inside and out,
Oh, wow, Cassie, that's
So
amazing.
it's a lot. Some out of such dark times that I never thought I'd get to the end of. That's the one thing. So I think, it's going to be a journey and it's going to be a battle, and I'll carry on. I'm committed and I'll carry on. But you said something, Carly, when you were going for your last scan, and you said, as the years pass, I feel less and less like a patient, and I have not forgotten it. And I pray that day will come for me where I won't be so scared,
I think that is exactly why the power in sharing our stories makes such a difference, because I remember being where you are, writing something on Instagram about how will there ever be a day I don't think about breast cancer in like the way I was thinking about it, with the fear and with the kind of trauma still and everything feeling so fresh, so raw. And a really special friend of mine who sadly is no longer with us, she wrote that she was like, there will come that day where it will just be a lighter feeling. You won't think of it with such intensity. And I held on to that comment so tightly. And she was right. She was right. And it is a thing that it's really hard, because we've been through treatment, you've been feeling unwell and all sorts of things going on and feeling like a patient for such a long time, when you may not have ever had any treatment before, never been unwell before you get your diagnosis. It is that thing of just be a bit more patient. No, you're not a patient anymore, but be patient and give it a bit of time. The healing takes time. But listen, hearing you say that you've never loved yourself more, I mean, that is such powerful healing. And I felt so similar with my kind of story. I think when we go through something like that and our bodies work so hard for us, it can be one of those incredible silver linings to just be like, all right, our bodies are changed, things are different, but oh my goodness, this body is strong, it's resilient, it's seen us through some of our hardest days. So it's an amazing thing to take away.
And there's also joy in the fact that nothing will ever be as bad as that. There will never be anything, touch wood, that is as bad as this, because cancer strips you of everything. Even I can't even still believe that it happened to me. I look at my body now every morning in the mirror, misshaped boob and the scar across my tummy and the wounds that I've had. And I just think, wow, who is that woman? But actually, I'm excited to get to know her again because she's new.
Yeah.
This woman is different now, you know.
And I think that's really important, Cassie, to touch on, isn't it? It's that sometimes there can be this thing where people so desperately want to go back to the person they were before diagnosis, like, okay, I've been diagnosed and now let's just get through everything and then just get back to normal. And I think what you're saying, so I've got to just cough, is there's a real awareness that there's no going back.
No.
And it sounds amazing, honestly, for so fresh out of treatment. Oh, my throat. To be talking how you are talking is amazing. You talk, I'm going to quickly get a sip of water.
No problem.
Hold on.
I think it's just, oh my goodness, you're really suffering.
You know when something just captures you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, I want to hear you talk anyway. But it is that awareness that you almost have to let go of that person you were before cancer, and like you say, get to know this new version of yourself, which isn't, you're not, all those parts of you come along, but there is a change, right? So how are you kind of embracing that? And
yeah, absolutely. And I also feel like a lot of my life before breast cancer, I was running, and actually now my feet are so firmly fixed to the ground, and I'm embracing the good days, I'm embracing the bad days, and I'm talking. And you know, when you get breast cancer, and there is that saying, isn't there? I've put it on my post. You know, it's a club that nobody wants to be in, but my God, what a club! I just am in this place where I need to be right now, surrounded by some of the most incredible human beings I've ever met in my life. The compassion and the love. No one knows each other, but yet you lean into each other with so much love and support. I honestly could not have got through it without my friends and my family, but I also include incredible community that I found along the way. They've kept me standing and they've held my hand.
And actually, I often say, from my experience anyway, the community really came into its own after treatment as well, because that can be sometimes that kind of, what you know, like you said earlier, it's kind of the hardest part, because your medical team steps away. Everyone desperately wants you to kind of close the chapter, be like, right, you're back. And it's like, now it's that, like you said, compassion and understanding from those in the community that can really help just to navigate this trickier bit a little bit, and the fears and everything that comes along with having had breast cancer.
And it's almost like there are sometimes not even any words. Sometimes when you are with somebody, and I have met some incredible ladies that I've had the opportunity to see again face to face, there are no words. You just know, just by looking. You know, and my friends are incredible, and they told me I'm so fortunate to have such an incredible support network around me, and they've got me, they get me, but they don't get the Cassie that had breast cancer, because and I hope they never do. I'd never would want them to understand, but just being surrounded by people that you know understand without even having to speak about it, you know, it's incredible. But when we were talking about the cold capping, this is what I do feel really passionately about, and this is one of the reasons why I set up All the Breast, because I just had, if I would have listened, Carly, to what I was told prior to my first round of chemotherapy on September the 11th, 2023, I never would have cold capped. But it was the stubborn will inside me to want to try and keep my hair that was just, I was petrified of losing it. It meant everything. It was my identity. I've never had great hair, but what I had, I wanted to keep, you know?
So what were you told?
I was told, I was fortunate enough to be able to have my treatment privately, and I was in a gorgeous hospital, which was lovely, and I got there on the first day and I was petrified, didn't know what was happening. I was with my best friend, I was crying my eyes out, and I just had this machine just wheeled next to me. I told them I wanted to cold cap, and they were like, yeah, okay. They
So
will
you knew about cold capping
I'd
yourself from the
researched it.
did
Somebody
research? Okay.
had mentioned about cold capping. I then went to town and did loads of research, found the Paxman machine, knew that that was the one I wanted to use. I'd called ahead and said, "What machine have you got?" And they said the Paxman. I said, "This is the one I want to use." They said, "Okay, no problem," but there was no instruction. There, she wheeled the machine next to me, bless her, and just let. And I remember looking up at it like that, thinking, "What, what is this? What do I do?
Mm.
How's this going to work?" I didn't know about the side effects. I didn't know how it made you feel. I didn't know about how painful it was going to be. I just knew I wanted to use it. And I think this is where my heart hurts. If I was to have listened to, it probably won't work, but you give it a try if you want to. And I said to the nurse, "Would you do this?" And she said, "No, it's too painful." And I just thought, oh my God, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I need to do it. I need to do it. It was I was arguing and fighting with myself, my heart and my head,
Mm.
my heart and my head. And I did. And it was probably one of the most painful things I've ever done in my whole life. Probably more painful than recovering from a mastectomy and reconstruction.
Yeah,
But
it's a very intense pain, isn't it? It's hard
yeah,
to explain it.
it really is. It really is. But slowly but surely, I feel like I sort of ploughed my way through each one. And I found techniques. I would use meditation, and I would use
Mm.
hypnosis that I had on how through this and what they could do for me, and looking out into the horizon. And I used something called mala beads, which is just another meditation technique. I couldn't have any music in my ears. I didn't want to eat while I was there. I didn't really drink a lot. I just focused in on trying to get myself in a position where I could get through the first 45 minutes. And once I got through that 45 minutes, it wasn't coming off because
Yeah.
I had beaten it. But my friend, I'll
So
never
did it hurt you for the whole 45 minutes
I
or
think you go so numb after the 45 minutes, Carly, that you switch off. You're so numb then. But
yeah,
the first hour is absolutely excruciating. And the nausea that it gave me, I thought it was the chemo, but
yeah.
actually I really do believe it was the chemo. The Red Devil definitely made me nauseous. But the pain, the physical pain just hit every nerve, and it made me feel so nauseous. Um
And despite all of that, because obviously if someone is listening or watching, they're going to be going, "Oh God, that sounds
I know.
awful." Like, or on top of, I'm with you. It was the cold cap that almost was the most traumatic bit about my treatment.
Yeah.
However, I also stuck with it and did 16 chemos with the
Oh,
cold cap, but
amazing.
I don't regret it, and I'm really glad I did it. So are you happy you stuck with it then?
I really
Is it
am. I would say to anybody, I'm making it sound like it is absolutely excruciating, and I'm not going to lie, it was excruciating. However, it makes your chemo longer because you have to have it an hour and an hour. So it does make that whole day longer. However, by round 7, I had still not lost much hair. And
Mm.
after round 7, I shed quite a lot of hair, and I do have some gaps. Look, my little bits of hair are like growing back, tiny little. And I saw this on holiday. This is where I here.
Oh
I got
wow, okay, yeah,
two
yeah.
sec- two
But
sections,
that's
and
you would notice that, but
of
that's
course,
it, isn't it? To
yeah,
anyone else looking, it's that age-old thing of you look really well, like
yeah,
because you kept your hair,
yeah.
and you really, I would say that was an incredibly successful use of cold capping.
My uncle,
Um,
when you go to see the radiographer, he's not going to believe that you have had 8 rounds of chemo. And I also one of the funniest things, Carly, I'll never forget it. I went for my consultation for my mastectomy and reconstruction, and the doctor came in. He looked down at my notes. He looked at me. He looked back down at my notes, and he went, "You look remarkably well. It's the hair.
yeah.
It's the hair."
It's
I
the
said,
hair.
"Please."
Did you lose your eyebrows and your
I,
eyelashes?
I did.
Okay.
Eyebrows and eyelashes went. All my hair went
Did
on my.
you do anything? Did you do microblading or anything like that?
Yeah,
Or
I had the microblading done before I started treatment. 2 weeks before, I got in there really quick because a friend
yeah.
who had cancer had advised me to do it, so I quickly went and had that done. I actually found the eyelashes really traumatic. Losing my
Mm.
eyelashes made me feel really ill.
Yeah.
And when I look back now, I did look really ill, regardless of keeping my hair. My hair was still dying. It was still suffering. It really was. It was.
Mm.
It didn't feel like my own. It was like straw. The color was really
Yeah, the
on.
textures really changes with it,
It
doesn't it?
was, yeah. So it took an absolute battering, but
But
I was.
to not lose it with the Red Devil is amazing, because that is so. I think that, like, my sister, she cold capped for all of her taxols and kept, I would say, a really decent amount of hair. Again, quite similar. There was, for her eyes, some patches, but to
Yeah,
anyone else, it would just look like good hair. She had a lot of it to start with. And I kept what I would say is good amount too for the taxols. But then that Red Devil, just like,
yeah.
no amount, nothing was going to stop that from making it,
Yeah.
take a
I
lot of hair
also,
away.
I did a lot of research as well. Like I invested in a really good silk pillowcase. I slept in a silk cap every night. I used a really good quality shampoo. The way that I washed my hair, I did never used to lather. I just used to let the water fall straight down, and I would just literally pat. I wouldn't flip it upside down to dry it anymore. I just let everything was really natural. So I
Did you
do
brush it?
say that again.
Did you brush it?
I did, but only with a wide tooth comb.
Okay.
So I
It
did.
sounds amazing, all the things you did. I think that this is such valuable information because it clearly works and made such a difference.
Yeah, it was. People still, when I look at photographs, they just can't believe. My oncologist literally says it to me every time: your hair just gets better. I don't know why it worked for me. It worked. I put in the hard work. The cold
Yeah.
cap worked for me, and I'm so grateful.
And so we touched on it a little bit just before. I've got some friends who actually were really recently saying that one of the hardest things they found, because the cold cap worked for them too, was, on the one hand, that's amazing, you're cold capping to keep your hair. However, it also means they had some comments like, "Oh, you must have had less strong chemo or something. Like, did you have like a better breast cancer?" The stories that go with losing your hair or not losing your hair, so you can get a different experience from others of not looking so sick. Did you experience anything like that?
I had a few comments. First of all, is it working? Because I kept my hair. How do you?
100%.
So that sends you into a spiral. So straight
Yeah.
off, is it working because I'm keeping my hair? Yes, Cassie, it's working. We're doing your scans. The tumours are shrinking. Just general, she's all right because I had my hair. You know,
Yeah.
it can't be that bad. Got your hair. The people that loved and
I
cared
think
about were very cautious about the way that they spoke. But there were some comments outside of that that were quite upsetting at the time.
there's a real I guess lack of understanding, and it's no one's fault. It's, again, I always say, it's how lucky that people don't know enough about cancer to know that there are some really strong treatments and they don't make you lose your hair. Like, there's a lot of cancers that you can be so sick internally and look on the outside like,
Absolutely.
well, I say. So yeah, being part of the cancer community has really highlighted that to me, that it is that thing of, we can never know how ill someone is just by
No,
looking, right?
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
did you feel ill with your chemo? Did you have terrible side effects, or did you kind of feel
Yeah.
okay-ish?
The EC just wiped the floor with me. Like, they should use it as a form of torture because it literally is the worst thing in the world. I've never experienced the nausea side of it. Was so bad. They wiped.
Mm,
However, the bounce back was good. So I
yeah.
remember the first chemo was 11 days in bed, and then the bounce back was great. And then it was 8, and then it was 7. So it got better.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I got stronger. I really, Carly, when I look back now, I go, "What is that bad?" And my 17-year-old daughter will say to me, "Mum, it was horrendous, and you were so ill." But I think it's almost like a protection, isn't it? Your brain
Is
forgets.
it a bit like when you have a baby and you kind of forget how badly?
Exactly. But I think I just tried to keep as positive as I could. But yeah, the nausea. My team were amazing. They used me as a guinea pig start with, and then they got on top of my medication for the nausea. And once I got rid of the nausea or got in control of it, life was brighter,
Oh,
because
nausea is just awful, isn't it?
I've
So,
never felt it. I've never felt it before. I didn't have it in my pregnancy, and I've never experienced nausea. Anyone that suffers with that through pregnancy or through whatever they are going through, honestly, my heart goes out to them, because it was horrendous. Paclitaxel was different because it was all the neuropathy, so it was like fireworks going off in my body, which were really intense for 72 hours, and then they went, and there was no nausea. So I'd won the lottery. Like, yes, this is amazing. This is amazing, you know.
And did you suffer with low bloods at all? Did you have to use the injections to boost them, or was that okay?
Steady the whole way through. I had a really, as positive as treatment can be, I was on time for everything. Nothing ever got delayed. I had one reaction the first time I had paclitaxel where I couldn't breathe, and that was horrendous.
It's pretty bad, isn't it? But listen how
Yeah.
lightly you say it. Oh, I just had this one anaphylactic reaction. I know, I had one too. It's like you do end up just being like, oh yeah, that old thing that happened.
Yeah.
It's quite scary though.
I don't really remember a lot about it, but the people that were surrounding me said it was absolutely awful. But I don't remember a lot about it. I sort of blacked out, so I couldn't breathe.
And then did they just administer it to you a lot slower?
They came to take the cold cap off, and I said, "Step away. You are not taking it off. We're going." And she said, "We have to just monitor you for 30 minutes. I said, "That's fine, but you're not taking the cold cap off. Leave it on, because if it comes off, it's not going back on again, please." And she was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Then they
Wow.
slowly, and we were okay.
Yeah, same. They had to administer it slower, which I think can happen quite a bit. I think it's to do, again, I'm not the most sciencey, but to do with whatever it's coated in that goes into you. That can be the thing that causes the shock. So if they administer it slowly, then it's, for anyone
Yeah.
watching, it's fine. I had that reaction on the second one of mine, and I still had 10 after.
Oh my God, Carly, so many. Carly,
16. 16 in total. Yeah. So, look at you. You're a month out of all your treatment, and you've been on your amazing holiday. I think it actually, I always think, oh, when I hear other people what they're going through, like you talking, I'm like, oh my God, it sounds like such a lot. When you're doing it yourself, it really, you do just kind of do the motions, don't you, and get through.
You're in a zone, aren't you? You're in a zone of survival.
Yeah.
Everything's tracked. I can't remember one date now. I still suffer with the side. That's the worst for me, I think, is the brain, the loss of. I can't even get the words.
But that will improve with time.
Yeah,
It really does. I remember that was the thing that I found so difficult and frustrating, because it was a long time, that chemo brain. And it's a real thing, chemo brain. And it's, you've had treatment that's impacts on every single cell in your body, from your hair follicles to your toenails, every bit, your nerves in your hands, the whole thing. So with time, it does eventually. It either comes back, or you just get completely used to the brain that we've now got. But I've got one question. I've before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
I'm getting from you, this is the first time we've ever spoken, I'm getting such a kind of positive mindset, along with full awareness and acknowledgement that, like, things are difficult, and you're in therapy and you're talking through stuff, that's amazing, allowing space for everything. Pre-breast cancer, Cassie, did you have a positive mindset then? Because I really feel like I'm getting such a positive mindset from you.
Yeah, I think I've always looked on the brighter side of everything. Life has been tough for me growing up, and you have to. Life's a battle, and I've battled my whole life. I think the difference now is I feel like I have such a purpose. There's something that I'm meant to do in this life, and I don't know what it is yet. But that makes me feel really excited. I'm not scared of that. I'm excited.
I've got goosebumps about that.
Yeah, there's something, Carly, and it might take years to come to fruition, but I'm meant to be doing something in this world. And I thought I loved before, but I love even more now. I've always been emotionally very charged, and I love people, and I tell them I love them, and I love my animals, and I love my friends, and I love life, and I was always that person, and I know that, but it's tenfold now, and I'm grateful for really grateful for
I
that.
think that's one of my friends calls it a cancer superpower. It's a really tough thing to go through, but oh my goodness, does it kind of change the way you see the world too,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
Um, and so being so fresh out of it, I'd love to kind of leave with any advice you might have for someone that's newly diagnosed, that's about to kind of face it's a good year, if not a bit longer, and if not much longer, actually, if you have to, do you have to take anything now, any medication now?
I've been put into a medical menopause, so I'm on letrozole now for 5 years, and I have an injection. I'm going to have a bone infusion in a couple of weeks' time because to avoid osteoporosis in 5 years. I'm really struggling with my bones. The letrozole is, and I had really bad, I can't remember the word, lymphedema in my arm.
Okay, lymphedema.
But my arm is getting better because I'm working with a PT and a physio, which is amazing. But that's been the most painful thing of all of it, was losing the use of my arm. Really, that's been quite, and that made me feel quite claustrophobic because I wasn't able to drive and I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that. But it's getting better, and I'm working really hard and building the muscle back up and stuff like that. So I think for
That's really hard.
anybody that is newly diagnosed, you know, there are so many moving parts. You're going to feel really poorly and you're going to be scared, but you just have to hold on. Just lean into those that love you, hold on, and just know that, you know, there is light. It will come in whatever way it's going to come, but it will come. There is light.
And you're completely proof of that light. Like you're radiating, you're just so, it's amazing to talk to you, I think, and especially so fresh out of everything when, you know, you're navigating some really difficult things, but ultimately you're here just going, yeah, there is light. You're the light.
There's so much joy. You know, life is so much more joyful now because, you know, you're just so grateful. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm grateful that I had the experience that I had with breast cancer. No matter how horrendous at times it was still a positive experience, and I'm so grateful for that.
Cassie, I'm so grateful for you for talking to us today, because I think this is probably the first time you've ever shared your story in this way, and
Yeah.
because and I think, as you said about there's a purpose and things, I think it's clear to me that you've got such amazing words to share and a story to tell, and it's been amazing talking to you today, so thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
Carly, can I just say thank you for everything that you do for the community? Because honestly, I have followed you from the very beginning. You were one of the first people that I stumbled across. And if it wouldn't have been for you and some of the other ladies that kept me going every single day, honestly, I don't know where I would be. So from the bottom of my heart, I'm not going to get emotional, but thank you so much. And thank you to OWise as well. They are incredible.
Amazing resource. Mutual love here, I've got to say, because just talking to you today, you don't, I've got a friend who also says this. She's always like, oh, if not for you. And I'm like, no, but I still take so much strength from talking to, just because you're kind of a few years behind me, it reminds me to kind of lean into so much of what you've just said. So actually, I feel like we all just keep, I always say there's like a relay race, but you don't stop. You just keep running alongside one another. So thank you to you too. And I'm grateful for this chat. Thank you.
It's such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Carly.
See you soon.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye. Bye.